Where's Chris? Will the House please come to order? Representative Tuck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move and ask unanimous consent that Representative Rasmussen be excused from the call of the House.
Representative,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's a motion before the body.
I'm aware of that, Representative Eastman. Representative Tuck.
Madam Speaker, I repeat, I move and ask unanimous consent that Representative Rasmussen be excused from the call of the House.
Hearing no objection, the member has been excused from the call of the House. Representative Tuck.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. The deadline for amendments has passed. Amendments to amendments is gone. As per the deadline you set, Madam Speaker, and it was approved by this body, any amendments to the amendments submitted past the deadline will go to the body for approval before it can be offered. So I'm suggesting that the maker of amendment number 1 to amendment number 75 to House Bill 281 withdraw his motion and move and ask unanimous consent for his amendment to the amendment be allowed past the deadline.
Representative Eastman.
Madam Speaker, I rise to a point of order.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to draw the body's attention to Section 157 of our Mason's Manual, which states, Section 1, parliamentary practice in American government bodies does not require sections to motions. I also would draw attention to Section 62. A member representing a constituency in a state legislature is entitled to present a matter for consideration of the body without having the support of a second or a third or a fourth or a majority.
Representative.
As legislators, that is our right. Our Constitution requires that our rules be uniform with the Senate. We have not changed this. The Senate has not changed this. Our Constitution, which trumps all of the above, requires in Article 2, Section 12, that the houses of each legislature shall adopt uniform rules of procedure. This would be a gross violation of a legislator's right to require, in order for them to make a motion, to have the support of another legislator or group of legislators.
Representative Eastman, insofar as the timeline on amendments, precedent has been set. If you are not going to withdraw your motion or request that motion to be approved by the body, I am going to rule it out of order. Which would you prefer, Representative Eastman?
Madam Speaker, I believe that ruling it out of order would be inappropriate. I ask you not to do that.
Would you like to either ask the permission of the body or would you like to withdraw your motion?
Madam Speaker, I will not withdraw this motion.
I am ruling this amendment number 1 to amendment number 75 out of order.
I appeal the ruling of the chair based on the citations that I just read to the body.
The question is, Representative Tuck.
Madam Speaker, I just want to make a point that the sections that were revealed in Mason's manual have to deal with seconds. In this case, there's no seconds required. The request was that he would do that unanimous with unanimous consent. And so with that, Madam Speaker, I support the upholding of the chair.
The question, brief it is. House please come to order? Are you ready for the question? The question is to uphold the ruling of the chair in ruling Amendment Number 1 to Amendment Number 75 out of order. Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
22 yeas, 15 nays.
With 22 yeas and 15 nays, Amendment Number 1 to Amendment Number 75 has been ruled out of order. Representative Carpenter.
Madam Speaker, I move and ask unanimous consent that Amendment Number 2 to Amendment 75 be taken up for consideration by this body outside of the timeline that you established.
Hearing no objection, Representative Carpenter, Amendment Number 2 will be taken up. Brief it is. Will the House please come to order? Brief it is. Will the House please come to order? Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment 2 to Amendment 75.
There's been an objection. Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So as quickly as I can, the underlying amendment removes the settlement award or settlement agreement amount of $495,000 in regards to the Belleville versus Dunleavy case. This amendment puts back in the $495,000 minus $100. The Department of Law's credibility is at stake for all future potential settlements if we do not pay this settlement. And I am not casting any sort of political statement or anything other than that, other than to find some agreement in this body to pay the settlement so that future departments of law will not be challenged with parties who question their integrity as to whether they're actually going to pay a settlement. And that would put our state in a worse position than it is now. So I offer this amendment for the body's consideration.
Thank you. Is there any debate? Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to the amendment. Certainly, if it is our responsibility as a separate branch of government to make a determination on whether or not appropriation should be approved, then the buck stops with us. It is not for us to say that the credit of the governor or the credit of our court system will be impaired because we accept the responsibility given to us by the Constitution to decide whether or not this money should be spent. The settlement comes before us. We have parties to the settlement that have agreed to it. We have approval from the courts that we could agree to it. But to say that simply because the courts have signed off on it that we must, whether I agree or disagree with the appropriation or a similar appropriation now or in 10 years' time, that argument will still be there. Well, the court said it, so we have to do it. The courts may say it. That is their right. And it is our decision on whether or not to do it. And that decision must be made by us, hopefully for reasons that are for the benefit of the state and the people of Alaska. But it is not for us to say that the other branch has done something and therefore we're obligated to, otherwise the credit of the state is impaired. That's not the way our system works.
Thank you. Representative Clayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do not support this amendment because what it essentially would make the governor liable for $100 and the state liable for $494,900 of the settlement. And, you know, if this had come to us with a proposal, a kind of a 50-50 proposal, which the governor sometimes talks about, and if the proposal was the governor was going to pay half of this settlement and the state was going to pay half, in that scenario, I might be receptive to paying for half of it. But this is a situation, I think the representative from Ocean View making comment that this was a kind of a dumb mistake by the governor. I think one of two things happened before this requirement they sign a loyalty oath occurred. The first was the governor sought legal advice, and the lawyers said, absolutely, you should not do that. It would be unconstitutional, it would be violating rights. And the governor didn't follow that advice, or alternatively, the governor didn't even seek legal advice and said, well, I'm going to do what I want to do without regard to what might be an unconstitutional action in violating rights. And so either way, it's a mistake by the governor, and the notion that the governor's liability should be limited to $100 doesn't make any sense.
Representative Johnson, if you have a point of order, stand up and state your point of order, please.
All right, well, I don't have chapter and verse. Sorry about that.
Continue.
Without trying to figure out what the governor was thinking.
Representative Clayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One of the other questions that's been raised is the Attorney General's credibility about paying and saying it will get paid. And so permission to read, and this is actually from the settlement agreement that was signed by the Attorney General on behalf of the governor and by the plaintiffs' lawyers, and also signed by the doctor plaintiffs themselves. And this is what the settlement agreement states.
Permission granted. Representative McCabe.
We're talking about the underlying amendment here, not about the $100. I don't know how we got from Amendment 2 to the underlying amendment, but that's where we are right now.
Thank you, Representative McCabe. Representative Clayman, we want to maintain the conversation based on Amendment number 2 to Amendment number 75.
And Madam Speaker, if I could respond to the first point of order before we get to the second point of order.
Please.
With regard, the comments that were made by the maker of the amendment specifically referenced the credibility of the Department of Law in settlements, and I think this is specific in response to the comments made by the maker of the amendment, the quote I'm about to read.
Briefly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The settlement agreement states defendants' requests represent that they will promptly seek appropriation of the aforementioned settlement amount by the current session of the Alaska Legislature after return to the released parties' counsel of an executed copy of this settlement and release. However, such appropriation is subject to legislative discretion and is not and cannot be guaranteed by the released parties. So the suggestion that the Attorney General's credibility has been put on the line if we do not pay this is simply not true. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I draw the member's attention to Section 61, interruption of members speaking. A member once recognized and having the floor is entitled to freedom from interruptions unless something arises that requires immediate consideration. And I ask that you find that that has not indeed been the case and that the member has been interrupted incorrectly.
Representative Eastman, in response to you, Section 61, a member can be interrupted and called to order if that person digresses from the subject, uses improper language, or has exceeded a time limit on speeches. Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I oppose this because, once again, we're setting a precedent. We're overstepping our bounds even by $100. And we're dabbling in the judiciary and the executive branch's bailiwick. In fact, I think it was 2 attorney generals before. I think by statute the attorney general sets the indemnification, and we are dabbling in his. This was 2 attorney generals before, and attorney-client privilege has attached, so we have no idea what was said. We have no idea if the governor's indemnified or not in And even sort of billing him $100 is not in our authority. If we want to fix that, then we need to change the statute, but we can't do it inside of a budget bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Carpenter in wrap-up.
Well, being a legislator certainly does not make me an expert on the law. Where to go? So, in my previous statements, I have not indicated that the current Attorney General or the Department of Law is specifically, their credibility is at stake. And if I did say that, I misspoke. What my intention, or what I should have said, or what I can more clearly say, is that any future action that any Attorney General or Department of Law may take in settling a case is going to be jeopardized if the party that they want to settle with does not have assurances that any settlement is going to be paid from the state treasury. That means we don't agree with the settlement. Therefore, we don't pay it. In a judgment of a case by a judge, we don't need to appropriate any money, it just gets paid. But in case of a settlement, the legislature must appropriate money to pay that. Therefore, it has the potential, not paying this, has the potential to jeopardize future settlements that would be in the best interest of the state. I am not arguing that we have to follow what the court said. I am not arguing that we need to do what the executive branch said. I am arguing that it is in the best interest of the state for future ability to settle cases to pay the settlement as agreed to by the parties. This is paying all but $100 of an amount that the governor should not have to pay in the first place, in my opinion. But I am seeking a political compromise in this body to make sure that we do not endanger the state of Alaska in the future.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? Brief at ease. Will the House come back to order? Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall Amendment Number 2 to Amendment Number 75 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
7 yeas, 30 nays.
With 7 yeas and 30 nays, Amendment Number 2 to Amendment Number 75 has not passed the House. We are on debate for Amendment 75. Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move and ask unanimous consent that I be permitted to move Amendment 3 to Amendment 75.
There's been an objection. question, Representative Eastman, you may sit down. The question is, whether or not Representative may put forward Amendment Number 3 to Amendment Number 75. Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
17 yeas, 20 nays.
With 17 yeas and 20 nays, we will not be accepting Amendment Number 3 to Amendment Number 75. Is there further debate on Amendment 75? Representative Kirka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I voted against the amendment to the amendment, and I support the underlying amendment here. I think a statement was made earlier from the member from Nikiski that court judgments are just paid without appropriation. I believe that's correct. I think both settlements and judgments are, in fact, had to be paid through the appropriation, either through the department's budget or explicitly in the appropriation section we saw earlier. Madam Speaker, I don't support this amendment because I think the governor should be liable. I think it's ridiculous. I agree with many of the members from the minority that he should be indemnified, as should other members in office. But I support the amendment because the Constitution Article 9, Section 13 very clearly says that no money shall be withdrawn from the Treasury without the legislature, Madam Speaker. And we have gone down a dangerous road of letting the courts and the lawyers decide what is and isn't going to be appropriated for us. And I support this because I want to help remind the members and the public and the courts, especially the courts, that no, that's actually the power of the legislature. And I'm so happy that the Chair of Judiciary is putting this forward to help ensure that precedence.
Thank you. Representative Crunk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a few questions. First is, don't all executive level employees serve at the pleasure of the governor? The second one would be, when has a settlement been rejected by the legislature? And the third is, where do I apply for the jury duty funds that we just passed? Thank you.
Representative Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've been quite a while on this topic, but I would ask that we all try to think back to the excellent comments offered by our representative from Palmer at the very beginning of this discussion. I think that was really the root of it right there, that this is a liability, we should pay it. It's part of the process. There's interest that will be accrued should it not be, and that's really the root of this. All of this other dissatisfaction about how it came about, and the things that are mentioned in this amendment or focused on by this amendment. So let's try to think back to those opening comments, really, and because I think that's where we need to be on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Representative Eastman, you've already spoken on this amendment. Do you have them down? Brief it is. Do you have them down? Let's please come back to order. My error. They must have been questions. Representative Eastman, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to applaud the maker of this amendment for his creativity, recognizing that this might be the first majority amendment that reduces the budget. So I applaud that effort, and I do support it, not just because it's a reduction to the budget, but because of some of the implications that this decision will have in the future. And I think that is at least as important as the particulars of this particular appropriations. What precedents are we setting with this decision? How is that going to impact us as a state in the future? And recognizing that one of the main questions that was at stake, not in just this case, but also in several related cases, deals with the ability of the people, through their elected representatives, to control our state government. In this case, to determine whether or not an at-will employee will be retained or will be let go. And that is an important question which has not gotten enough airtime today, in my perspective. And so as we look at these exempt and similar classified employees, as we consider many of these so-called at-will employees, what does that mean? Does that mean that the people, through their voice at the ballot box, through their decision of who will be a governor, lieutenant governor, can have an impact on whether or not those employees will in fact reflect their political agenda that they, the people, have decided, or whether or not they will reflect the previous administration's political agenda? And it may very well be that many of those employees really worked really well with that previous administration, but now the people, through their own prerogative, they could have retained the previous executive. They chose not to, and whether or not that will be honored in our process. So I will be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Is there further, excuse me, Representative Vance?
Madam Speaker, I am so confused because we are in a topsy-turvy world today. The member behind me is supporting amendments from the speaker across the aisle over here, and the member across the aisle is supporting an amendment to this bill, and so I'm just kind of turned around because the winds are blowing a different direction today. But perhaps that means that we might be going in the right direction. However, I stand in opposition to this amendment because I feel that two wrongs don't make a right. There's a lot of opinions on this court decision and on what the actions that this governor took. But we need to consider the precedent that this will set for the future executives. And obviously, we're thinking about current candidates of who the next governor could be. But let's just set the politics of that aside and think about the one after that. Are we going to then be having the same discussion over every court case that's considered? What kind of precedent are we setting for those who would seek to serve this great state in the various branches of government, knowing that they will have lawsuits because we make mistakes as elected officials, and sometimes they're really big? So are we sending a message that if you want to run for governor of Alaska, that you better have friends in the court and you better have money to be able to support that? Are we going to send a message that there is indemnity, that when litigation is brought against the state, that you're covered in that? Now, if there are egregious personal things, those should be dealt with in a personal manner. But this was state capacity, and I think we need to consider that as we take up this amendment.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Representative Clayman, in wrap-up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to answer some of the questions that were raised. First is, how is this settlement different than the other settlements that are before the body in this budget? And it's different in a couple of significant ways. First is that this is based on liability on summary judgment. And summary judgment liability is very rare in general, but when they actually find somebody liable on summary judgments, it's exceedingly rare, especially in one of these cases involving the violation of constitutional rights under federal law. As I mentioned before, if it's the state, all they can do is enter injunctive relief saying you can't do it again. And the personal liability only comes to the state individual who is essentially exceeding their authority by violating constitutional rights. And I asked Corey Mills from the Department of Law during one of the hearings, I said, go into Lexis, go into Westlaw, these computer databases of lawsuits, find me a single case where a governor in the United States has been found liable on summary judgment for violating constitutional rights. She couldn't find one. And I said, has a governor of Alaska ever been found liable on summary judgment for violating constitutional rights, personally liable, in the history of Alaska? And she couldn't tell me one. It's never happened before. And so when people say this is a precedent, well, the precedent is if in 63 years of statehood we've had one governor found personally liable on summary judgment for violating constitutional rights, the odds of it happening again are incredibly low. And the history of what's happened to this governor for violating constitutional rights probably means that every governor in the future will have the sense to either get advice from counsel and follow that advice, or at least get the advice. So we're in a situation in which this is a unique case under unique circumstances in which the governor knowingly took actions that he darn well should have known were unconstitutional. There were also questions asked about indemnity. And indemnity, for example, I think the pilot from Big Lake was talking about when he's flying aircraft. I'd give a better example about liability. If you run a red light and just didn't see it negligently, then indemnity covers. But if you intentionally say, I'm going to run the red light, there's no longer that indemnification from your employer. So, Madam Speaker, this is a situation in which the public is unequivocally say we should not be paying for the governor's personal liability, and I urge support for this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall amendment number 75 to committee substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
20 yeas, 17 nays.
With 20 yeas and 17 nays, amendment number 75 has passed the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 76 by Representatives Clayman, Josephson, Snyder, Foster, Schrage, Tuck, Sponholz, Edgman, Ortiz, and Drummond, beginning page 4, line 4.
Representative Clayman.
Move Amendment 76.
There's been an objection. Representative Clayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 76 takes, for simplicity's sake, Amendment number 42 raised the question about whether we should pay bonuses to Department of Law attorneys, prosecutors, and what this amendment does is it takes the same bonus structure that we are paying in the budget for prosecutors and attorneys for the Department of Law, and applies those same bonuses to public defenders and attorneys with the Office of Public Advocacy and staff support. And this is really comes back to this core public safety commitment that we have, that if we're going to get out of the backlog and start actually being able to successfully prosecute cases and keep the system moving forward and really make victims in the state see that we're moving the system forward, we need to make sure that all sides of that system are functioning well. And what we really learned after the news kind of got around to the other attorneys in the state about how the Attorney General's office was going to get bonuses to try to help with their problems with the recruitment and problems with the retention, if it wasn't going to be applied equally to other lawyers that were in the same system that provides justice and really essentially provides that public safety function, then we're going to actually see them having more retention problems and more recruiting problems. And so these bonuses in Amendment 76 are the goal of making sure the system can work more effectively and we can do better to get rid of the backlog and move the system forward, and also successfully retain attorneys that will actually come to work for the state and keep working for the state in the years ahead. And be happy to answer questions following the debate. Thank you.
Representative Fields.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I strongly support this amendment. You know, at a very basic level, to lock up criminals, we need prosecutors to prosecute them, public defenders to defend those and provide for their constitutional rights for those who are indigent. And if we don't have both, we can't put criminals behind bars. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment and lock up those who are a danger to society. Thank you.
Representative Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to a conflict. My wife would be one of these people getting the bonus. Thanks.
There's been an objection. Representative Hopkins, you'll be required to vote. Representative Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to a question. I noticed this amendment has intent language in it, and we've been kind of harsh on intent language, and so I just wanted to kind of ask the body what we're thinking here with respect to that. Thank you.
Further debate. Representative Josephson.
Madam Speaker, the last question was a good one, but I think the distinction is that we're talking actual dollars here in the first half of page 1 of the amendment. So I think this is certainly germane and appropriate. You know, one of the things we heard at the Department of Law was that, for example, in the Office of Children's Services, they have attorneys that are called human services attorneys in the civil section. And they just have tremendous turnover because the work is so difficult and they're so underpaid. And the chief of that section testified specifically about that. You can imagine the same would be true at the Public Defender's Office. They defend parents' rights against termination trials. These are difficult cases. They're unsung heroes, all of these folks doing either trying to protect kids on the one side or protect parents and get their kids back on the other. These salaries have not increased since 2017. They've slipped behind the GGU, and it's very appropriate. We are losing talent because we're not keeping up in this sector of our state. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, we're putting the cart before the horse. Statute AS 39-27011 to authorize bonuses or salary adjustments outside of what is already in statute. And this is trying to do that. We haven't had that legislation passed to authorize these increases in pay or bonuses. There is legislation in the House that's being processed, and that would make this more legal. But again, we're a little ahead of ourselves again. You know, back to Amendment 10 was trying to give COLA increases to government employees, to our staff. And that had language in it that said that this would be in effect if authorized with substantial legislation, which we didn't have at that time either. So I objected to this because I wanted to get that out there that we are putting the cart before the horse. But there is legislation, and I hope we keep legal by getting that passed. So I'm going to withdraw my objection.
Thank you. Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought we had a precedent that if there was a bill being heard in committee, we were going to withdraw the bill first before we offered an amendment such as this. So I'd appreciate the maker of the amendment talking to that. But notwithstanding that, wow, hasn't even been a day. We already discussed this for the Department of Law and decided about their bonuses, and here's another group. So I'm really excited to see what the next group we're going to pay bonuses to that are deserving of bonuses because they haven't had a pay raise since 2017. So I'm sure there's more. Maybe we could check with the maintenance staff and the janitors in this building. We could probably check with lots of state employees that haven't had a bonus or a raise since then. So, I mean, as long as we're spending money and as long as we're paying bonuses to high-paid lawyers, maybe we should pay it to everyone else. Oh, and there's the PFD as well.
Briefities. Brave footies. Will the House please come to order? We are on amendment number 76 to House Bill 281. Representative Wool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I chaired the subcommittee on the Department of Administration. And last year, we added some public defenders and some positions, but we didn't add bonuses, and maybe that was an oversight. But we did hear from the division, and they are overworked and underpaid personified. These guys are extremely busy and have a lot of cases. Their caseloads are really high. They need to recruit and retain as many attorneys as possible, and it's not easy. And because they are short, and because there's conflict sometimes within cases, they have to hire a lot of attorneys on contract, private attorneys. They spend many, many, many thousands of dollars on private attorneys, which is expensive. So if they were able to recruit and retain more state attorneys, they would actually save money. So these bonuses, although it looks like an expense, could very easily save a lot of money for the state. And I support it for that reason, and I support the attorneys that do this difficult work, and they need all the help they can get. And like I said, right now they're hiring a lot of private attorneys on contract.
Thank you. Representative McCarty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I concur with the concerns of the representative from District 5. I deal with people that are attorneys and work with all these different cases, and they're overwhelmed. That's very true. However, as stated earlier from the representative from Fairbanks, that we're putting the cart before the horse. And there's no reason that we can't have the bill being heard that's going through committee to be then approved and a supplemental being presented to us next year to take care of the raises that could be given to these people. So I think we need to stay with the protocol and not move out of that, because it's going to set a dangerous precedent that's already been brought up. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Merrick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My constituents in Eagle River have demanded that we be tough on crime, so I will be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Representative Eastman.
Thank you. 13.5 billion. I think that's where we're still at, though we have reduced a little bit in one of the previous amendments, so I do acknowledge that. But again, this amendment, now we're going back up. And is there not some place in that very large budget, is there not some part of those $13 billion that we could have looked at and said, well, this is more important than that, and prioritized one priority over another, rather than doing what too many of our predecessors have done over too many years, and simply added this priority on top of all the rest, and not done the very difficult work of weighing which priority is in fact more important today for the people of Alaska. It is not the case that our budget is spending, about average for other states per capita. We're actually a fair bit higher than twice the national average. And every time we go through the process of hiring one segment of our legal justice system, attorneys. Last year we were adding attorneys. But was it not obvious, or should it not have been obvious, that if we were going to be adding 10 attorneys to the budget, that we were probably going to need, about the same time those attorneys got hired, about 10 or so public defenders? Or at least enough to keep the balances weighed? When we take one piece at a time and we add to the budget, that's like the camel's nose. When we approve it, we're not just approving that, we're approving the whole camel, because there's going to be a case backlog. The prosecutors are going to be generating more cases. There's not enough defense attorneys to carry those cases, and so the process is delayed and there's a backlog. Let's be smart about this rather than piecemealing it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Clayman, in wrap-up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I first want to respond to the question raised by the representative from Big Lake about, is this the subject of a bill in another committee? And it might appear that way, but it actually isn't. There's a bill that is in State Affairs now that proposes an increased salary for lawyers in the Department of Law and public defenders and public advocates, but that doesn't take effect until fiscal year 2024, July 1st, 2023. So the subject of this amendment is only affecting this fiscal year, and that's only for fiscal year 2023. So the bill in the other committee is a FY24 going forward bill. That bill is House Bill 226. And this particular amendment only deals with this current fiscal year, so there is no conflict in that way. I don't have whole lot more to add. I think this is an example in which we're trying to keep our criminal justice system moving forward in an effective way and doing everything we can to improve public safety. So I would encourage all of you to push the green button. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall Amendment Number 76 to Committee Substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please void the roll? Representative Eastman, would you please rise?
Thank you. I just want to rise to a point of order. It's actually not in order during a vote to place a call in the House, and we have a specific rule that deals with that.
We went through this once before, and it was problematic, Representative Johnson, when you're in the middle of a vote. So I am going to ask the question again. Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall Amendment Number 76 to Committee Substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
19 yeas, 17 nays.
With 19 yeas and 17 nays, Amendment Number 76 has passed the House. Brief it is. Delana. Please. Brief it is. Will the House please come to order? Representative Hannan.
Thank you. I will not be offering amendment number 77 at this time.
I am rolling amendment number 77 to the bottom of the calendar. Representative Hannan.
I will not be offering amendment number 78 at this time.
I am rolling amendment number 78 to the bottom of the calendar. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 79 by Representative Cronk, beginning page 16, following line 22.
Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment 79.
Representative McCabe.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to move and ask unanimous consent that we table Amendment 79.
There's been an objection. Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall amendment number 79 be tabled? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
33 yeas, 3 nays.
With 33 yeas and 3 nays, amendment number 79 has been tabled. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 80 by Representative Cronk, beginning page 77, following line 27.
Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment 80.
There's been an objection. Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment will appropriate $60,000 to the Toke Shooters Association to purchase land from DNR for the 60 acres where the existing range is right now. Back in the 70s, the Toke Shooters Association formed a group, and they tried to lease this property from DNR, but they didn't allow it to happen. But through the Fish and Game, they did a no-cost lease where the Toke Shooters Association provided all the work, built the range and everything. So this has been working pretty solid for 40 years. The voluntary effort to establish the range has been amazing, the amount of people and the time. Community members and local businesses donated countless hours and thousands and thousands of dollars. Materials, they built a steel roof covered range, steel benches, gongs out to 500 yards, outhouses while people were there. About 10 years ago, we've had an issue. We used to have a gate that was locked, but the issue of, hey, you don't own this, we haven't been able to lock the gate. So this has caused a lot of issues, and they've spent countless hours trying to remedy this problem. And we even had people out, doing surveys, and that's went upside down. And finally, it looks like we have the ability to actually put this land in the Shooters Association hands. But the problem is with not owning it, it can't be secured, right? And so we've had increased vandalism. Safety has become an issue. We can no longer, continue building onto the range because we don't own it. And so it's become a really, tough place for the Shooters Association. And all they want is to be able to own this land so they can continue building on this. And if there's no other arguments, I'll add some more in closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Merrick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no doubt that this is a very worthwhile project. However, it is more appropriately added if in the capital budget. So I will be opposing it for that reason, and I encourage the maker of the amendment to work with myself and the capital budget co-chair from the other body regarding this. I believe it may be in his district as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative McCabe.
Speaker, I move Amendment 1 to Amendment 80.
Brief it ease. Will the House please come back to order? Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment adjusts the fund sources and totals accordingly, and it makes it conform to operating budget language, so hopefully that will assuage the member from Eagle River.
Is there further discussion? Brief it is. Will the House please come to order? Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the advice of the Finance Co-Chair and many excellent finance staffers, I withdraw Amendment 80, or Amendment 1 to Amendment 80.
Which takes us to Amendment 80. Is there any discussion on Amendment 80? Any further discussion on Amendment 80? Representative Prox.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess I'm hesitant to vote in favor of Amendment 80, not on the merits of the project, but this is just the wrong process to be making decisions like this, and it should go through the regular process. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate. Representative Cronk, in wrap-up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate everybody's time here. I was surely not hoping that we spent any more time on this, but I appreciate this is a good amendment. This range is used by the Alaska State Troopers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the BLM. It's a widely used range across the eastern interior, and I just ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? Brief at ease. Will the House please come to order? Are you ready for the question? Question is, should Amendment Number 80 to Committee Substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
10 yeas, 25 nays.
With 10 yeas and 25 nays, Amendment Number 80 has not passed the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 81 by Representative Cronk, beginning page 77, following line 27.
Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment 81.
There's been an objection. Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, this one was a hold my beer amendment. This amendment would appropriate $1.6 billion for the completion of the Northern Rail extension between North Pole and Delta Junction, which is approximately 80 miles. This would include 3 phases. The last estimate for completion was 8 years ago, and that was between $850 million and $1 billion, and now that price tag is $1.6 billion. The Northern Rail extension is to be built in 4 phases. In 2004, the Alaska Railroad initiated the project conceptual development. Phase 1 was building the Tanana River crossing. In 2011, there was a 21-shovel groundbreaking ceremony. Our beloved Congressman Don Young was there, and he said, "This is a great day. We're finally building a bridge to somewhere." Well, the bridge was completed in 2014. Unfortunately, it has become a $200 million bridge to somewhere still. The benefits to Alaskans are many with this extension. Common carrier rail service would provide affordable transport for agriculture, food security, mining, chemicals, the military base, and also provide a new destination for tourists if they so choose to go to Delta Junction. And this would reduce wear and tear on the Richardson Highway. The time is now to build this rail, so I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative McCabe.
Madam Speaker, I will not be offering Amendment 1 to 81.
Amendment 1 to 81 will not be offered, so we are on discussion on Amendment Number 81. Representative Merrick.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker, and I will note this is should be in the capital budget. This is a mega project that has not been vetted through committee, and that is something that needs to be done with something so significant. And I encourage the maker to work with the co-chairs again. Thank you very much. I urge a no vote.
Is there further discussion on Amendment Number 81? Representative McCarty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We need this railroad. This mechanism is not appropriate to do it this way, but we definitely need this railroad for many reasons. And so I implore that we get to this and make it happen before it costs us a lot more than $1.6 billion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Representative Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just real quick, I just wanted to say, while this isn't the time or the place to do it, but you mentioned hold your beer. I will buy you a beer and look forward to working together to figure out how to build this railroad with you.
Thank you. Representative Vance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just would like to point out this feels like a ginormous project with a $1.6 billion figure in this budget. However, I would like to remind the body that there were 2 other amendments of similar value that was voted on with swift action that didn't seem to give much consternation, and that was more than $1 billion transfer from the earnings reserve to the corporate.
Representative Vance, we're referring to this amendment.
Comparing the dollar amount that is in this amendment, as that there were 2 other more than $1 billion actions on this floor that I think that we need to keep in mind as we weigh amendments such as this. And keep that in perspective.
Thank you, Representative Vance. Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We haven't really done an infrastructure project in a long time, not of this magnitude. Our rail is going to be very important, rail to everywhere. We've got problems with the Richardson Highway that we all know about. We're talking about a mine and driving trucks over the Richardson Highway, and the more I hear about it, the more dismayed I become with the level of maintenance and care on that road and the problems with it. This rail is, there's so many benefits to it. I get that it's a huge amount of money, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate getting at least one vote and one beer out of the majority. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Cronk, in wrap-up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank you guys all for putting up with me here and giving me a little bit of time. I have a little trivia question. Does anybody know where the longest bridge in Alaska is built? It's the Salter River Bridge that was just built in phase 1. This is a project that has long-term effects on Alaska. This is a 50-year project. This is a 100-year project. When I look north, and I always have to say, when I look north from where I live, I always say it's God's country, but it's dome after dome after dome, which are, all of them are full of minerals. And some of them have been explored, some of them are being explored right now. This rail would be the sole reason that those become feasible, which resource development in our state is a huge deal. Projects like these provide opportunities for legacy projects. We have a legacy project right now, the Man Show Mine in Chetland. Projects like this empower people. The human aspect of resource development must not be overlooked. There's no price tag we can put on projects that bring people out of poverty and become self-dependent versus dependent on the government. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are you brief at ease? Will the House please come back to order? Are you ready for the question? Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall amendment number 81 to committee substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
9 yeas, 26 nays.
With 9 yeas and 26 nays, amendment number 81 has failed to pass the House. Brief it is. That's okay. Will the House please come back to order? Representative Wool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to rescind my action on amendment number 68.
Hearing no objection. Brief at ease. Will the House please come back to order? Representative Eastman Representative Eastman, would you refresh our memories as to what amendment number 68 is?
Gladly, Madam Speaker. This amendment would reduce the amount currently in the budget for the purchase of oil and gas tax credits to the amount in the governor's proposed budget. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Brief at ease. Will the House please come back to order? Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall amendment number 68 to committee substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
19 yeas, 18 nays.
With 19 yeas and 18 nays, amendment number 68 has passed the House. I'm going to remind members or tell you I am going to we are going to get through all these amendments tonight on both 281 and 282. So just keep that in mind as we continue calling brief at eases. Maybe if we keep them brief. I understand you need them, but if we could keep them brief, it would be helpful. So with that, we are on amendment 82. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 82 by Representative Cronk, beginning page 77, following line 27.
Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment 82.
There's been an objection. Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment would appropriate $307 million for the completion of Phase 2 of the Northern Rail extension from Moose Creek to the Salcher Crossing. 8 years ago, this was $205 million. Today, it's $307 million. Let's get this done now before costs go any higher. Thank you.
Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not be offering amendment number 1 to amendment 82.
Amendment number 1 to amendment number 82 is not being offered. We are on discussion of amendment number 82. Is there any discussion? Representative Tarr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to share, why, even though some of these that have been offered of the last couple amendments are great ideas and things that I would likely share, what underscores the importance of doing this in the capital budget is if you add up just the handful of amendments that related to the capital budget, it's over $2 billion of spending. So relative to what else needs to be in the capital budget, this just makes me, realize, and it underscores the need for us to do it in that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I remember a moment when we were on the floor some years back. I think you and I were both there, and we were dealing with the capital budget, and the operating budget got thrown into it. Anyways, the reason that comes to mind now is because whereas prior to that happening, I think there was an expectation among Republican, Democrats, and Independents that the capital budget could be left to capital things, and the operating budget should be left to operating things, and there would be an opportunity for both to happen, and those conversations could be had separately. I think that some of the amendments that are coming for us that are capital items today in our operating budget are here because there's not much of an expectation that we'll be guaranteed that opportunity to have discussion on these items in the capital budget. I've heard questions over, whether or not there's even going to be a capital budget. And it's those questions that lead us to look for other ways to have that conversation. So I'm very supportive of the member putting forward the amendment. Whether or not I vote for it is separate from that, but I'm very supportive of putting it forward here because now is the opportunity, and I haven't heard any assurances that there will be another opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, in wrap-up, Representative Cronk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge you guys all to hit the green button.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall amendment number 82 to committee substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
7 yeas, 29 nays.
With 7 yeas and 29 nays, amendment number 82 has failed to pass the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 83 by Representative Eastman, beginning page 82, lines 16 through 20.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not be offering Amendment 83 at this time. In its place, I move that Amendment 49 be taken up from the table.
Let's see, I rolled 49, didn't I? 49 has been rolled to the bottom of the calendar? Or table. Wait. Oh, it was table. Brief it is, thank you. Will the House please come to order? The question is, shall we take amendment number 49 from the table? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
12 yeas, 25 nays.
With 12 yeas and 25 nays, amendment number 49 will not be taken from the table. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 84 by Representative Eastman, beginning page 82, lines 9 through 12.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move amendment number 84.
There's been an objection. Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment and some others we're going to deal with here shortly deal with the fact that now we are reaching the end of our budget process. Very few amendments left to deal with, and we have still not met our statutory obligation in a number of areas. And the one I want to focus with this amendment is with the permanent fund dividend. This amendment would take the amount raised from the large passenger vessel gambling tax, and it would take that same amount and would send that from the earnings reserve account to the dividend fund for the payment of a statutory or a more close to the statutory permanent fund dividend. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Eastman.
Thank you. The amount in question.
Representative Eastman, you have Amendment 1 to 84.
I'd be glad to offer amendment number 1 to 84.
You need to move Amendment number 1 to 84,
Yes,
Representative?
it is moved.
There's been an objection.
Thank you. And there was a formatting error, which led to the amendment 1 to 84. Nothing in the amendment other than that has changed. Everything I said a moment ago is still accurate. And the amount that we're looking at is not a large amount, but with the movement of the money from the earnings reserve account to the dividend fund, we would be just a little bit closer to paying out a full dividend. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on Amendment 1 to Amendment 84? Seeing none, are you ready for the question? Question is, shall Amendment number 1 to Amendment number 84 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
19 yeas, 18 nays.
With 19 yeas and 18 nays, Amendment number 1 to 84 has passed the House. We are to discussion on Amendment number 84. Is there any discussion on Amendment 84? Representative Eastman in wrap-up.
Thank you. And Amendment 84, as amended now, will move the profits from the large passenger vessel gambling tax to the dividend fund. It is a small amount, but I think everything helps. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Shall Amendment number 84, as amended, to Committee Substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
11 yeas, 26 nays.
With 11 yeas and 26 nays, Amendment 84 has failed to pass the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 85 by Representative Eastman, beginning page 82, lines 9 through 12.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you. I move Amendment 85.
There's been an objection. Representative Eastman.
Thank you. And just to be more efficient, I move Amendment 1 to Amendment 85.
There's been an objection.
Thank you. The difference between Amendment 1 and the underlying amendment is simply that the formatting, like with the previous amendment, has been adjusted to more accurately reflect the intent. This is money that will be coming from the earnings reserve account to the dividend fund.
Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall Amendment 1 to Amendment 85 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
21 yeas, 16 nays.
With 21 yeas and 16 nays, Amendment number 1 has passed the House. We are now to discussion on Amendment number 85 as amended. In wrap-up, Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And in opening, I guess, and wrap up too, on the amended amendment, this amount is the profits from the charitable gaming tax. It's a small amount, but we are well under the amount in statute for payment of our permanent fund dividend, and it would move that same amount to the dividend fund.
Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall Amendment number 85 as amended to committee substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
12 yeas, 25 nays.
With 12 yeas and 25 nays, Amendment number 85 has failed to pass the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 86 by Representative Eastman, beginning page 82, lines 9 through 12.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move and ask unanimous consent to that Amendment 70 be taken from the table at this time.
There's been an objection. Are you ready for the question? Not yet. Briefities. Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall Amendment number 70 be taken from the table? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
13 yeas, 24 nays.
With 13 yeas and 24 nays, Amendment number 70 will not be taken from the table. Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move adoption of Amendment 86.
There's been an objection. Representative Eastman.
Thank you. And for efficiency, I move adoption of Amendment 1 to 86.
Hearing no objection, Amendment 1 to 86 has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the amended amendment, Amendment 86 takes the profits that the state will be receiving from the insurance premium tax, which would normally go to the general fund, and takes that amount from the earnings reserve account to the dividend fund. The formatting is the same as previous amendments in that the underlying amounts in the budget are not changed other than the amount that is coming into the state revenue for the insurance premium tax would instead be sent, instead of going to the general fund, it would go to the earnings reserve account so that it can be distributed for permanent fund dividends.
Is there any discussion? In wrap-up, Representative Eastman. Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall Amendment Number 86 to Committee Substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
13 yeas, 24 nays.
With 13 yeas and 24 nays, Amendment Number 86 has failed to pass the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 87 by Representative Eastman, beginning page 28, line 32.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to take up from the table Amendment 31.
There's been an objection.
Yep.
Representative Eastman, would you refresh the members on what amendment this was, what it addresses?
Yes, Madam Speaker. This.
Brief it is. Please come back to order. Representative Eastman, it's not necessary. It had been tabled. So do the members, do you need a moment to, okay. Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall Amendment Number 31 be taken from the table? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
5 yeas, 32 nays.
With 5 yeas and 32 nays, Amendment 31 will not be taken from the table. Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move adoption of Amendment 87.
There's been an objection. Representative Eastman.
Thank you. And for efficiency, I move Amendment 1 to Amendment 87, which deals with formatting.
Hearing no objection, Amendment 1 to Amendment 87 has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the underlying amended amendment, this is Amendment 87. This is taking the amount that the state will anticipate be received from the vehicle rental tax and would be moving that amount from the earnings reserve account to the dividend fund. There is a recommendation in the statute for where the proceeds of that tax would go. That hasn't been followed in 5 years, and the dividend fund remains underfunded this year for the division to distribute a statutory dividend to Alaskans. This would move a small amount of money to that fund so that we get closer to following that statute. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? In wrap-up, Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The amounts here are before you in Amendment 1. It is not a large amount, I admit, but our priority, I believe, should be to do what we can to distribute a dividend amount as close as possible to the statutory amount. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall Amendment Number 87 to Committee Substitute for House Bill 281 pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
12 yeas, 25 nays.
With 12 yeas and 25 nays, amendment number 87 has failed to pass the House. Madam Clerk.
Amendment number 88 by Representative Kirka, beginning page 21, line 15.
Representative Kirka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move amendment number 88.
There's been an objection. Representative Kirka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 88 was actually amendment number 55 originally. Just to clarify for members, there was a typo on the draft on page numbering, and that's why it had to be passed out again as 88. So amendment number 88 basically defunds the position for state medical director. There's certainly a lot of good that has been done in the past with that position, but Madam Speaker, to many people in my district and in my community, there's been incalculable damage as of late, and we think until somebody else can be found, that position should be removed, defunded.
Thank you. Is there any briefities? Please come back to order. Is there debate on Amendment 88? Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if I like this amendment or not. What I dislike is sort of trying to fulfill campaign promises from your legislative seat. It's frustrating that this is offered this year at this time in an election year, and the campaign promises were also offered this year. And I get that that's his right as a campaign person, my esteemed colleague from Wasilla, but maybe somebody else should have offered this amendment. To me, the ethics are a little bit murky. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Representative Tarr.
Madam Speaker, I just want to speak in opposition of this amendment, and I just feel compelled to say a thank you to the chief medical officer that we have that works so hard, going so far as isolating herself from her family so she could remain healthy, and also, in addition to providing service to the state as the chief medical officer, continuing to work in hospitals throughout the entire pandemic. We have to remember it was a novel virus. We did the best we could with what we had, and we're learning new things every day. And I think she always had the best interests of Alaskans at heart. And even, if you disagree with the particular individual, it's a critical position. And we've had many talented people before her, and it would be, I think, a huge mistake to eliminate that position.
Thank you. Representative Eastman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to
Representative Tuck.
This amendment should be ruled out of order due to the fact that it's constitutionally inappropriate. We are targeting a specific PCN in this one as supported by the documents and has been testified. And so we cannot do that. And so I'd like to rule this amendment out of order.
Where in the Constitution this violates the Constitution?
Representative Tuck, could you repeat yourself, please?
Yes, and it goes back to whether or not the legislature can interfere with the executive branch. I would have to get taken at ease to get the court case that refers to. But we are not to target individual people who work for the state of Alaska through PCN numbers, so that has definitely been a past court ruling, and because we have constitutionally overstepped our bounds into the executive branch's ability to manage the employees, all we can do is appropriate the money, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Foster.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to this Amendment 88. I have a alleged legal memo here dated April 7 today, and it says, Madam Speaker, if I could just quote.
Permission to read.
The legislature appropriates and the executive expends. Language may not have the effect of administering the program of expenditures, and the legislature budgets at the appropriation and the allocation level. And below that, you've got components, and then below that, you've got your PCN lines, your personal services lines. And so, as the legislature, we cannot go down to that level. That is an executive ability, and if we try to do that, then it is a violation of the confinement clause. And so, for that reason, I will not be supporting this amendment.
I am going to rule this amendment out of order. Representative Eastman.
Madam Speaker, I regret to draw your attention to the fact that that ruling is in fact out of order under Mason's Section 579, which states, "It is not the right of the presiding officer to rule upon the constitutionality of bills because that authority belongs to the House." It's a perfectly valid reason to vote against a motion, and maybe, in fact, it is unconstitutional. I don't know that we've fully resolved that, but if it is, let us vote it down. But we're not permitted to rule a member out of order because we believe something is unconstitutional.
Representative Tuck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In regards to the point of order that I brought up, this has to do with the legislature's action in this case, and it has to deal with the constitutionality, not with Mason's rules, but it has to do with the constitutionality of overstepping our boundaries on this one, Madam Speaker. So I would like to call the question on the point of order.
The question is ruling amendment number 88 out of order based on its constitutionality. Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
30 yeas, 7 nays.
With 30 yeas and 7 nays, amendment number 88 has been ruled out of order. Representative Tilton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move and ask unanimous consent to rescind action on amendment number 84.
Brief it is. Will the House please come to order? Are you ready for the question? Question is, shall amendment number 84 as amended pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please call the, or, good grief, call the,
12 yeas,
Thank you.
25 nays.
good grief, couldn't spit it out. With 12 yeas and 25 nays, amendment number 84 has not passed the House. So Madam Clerk.
I have no further amendments.
Mr. Majority Leader. Representative Kirka. Brief it is. Will the House please come to order? The House will stand at recess until 6:15.
Hi everybody, I'm back, and man, looks like my timing was a little bit bad there, or a little bit good. I literally just pulled into the driveway right when this was ending. So they will be back at 6:15 today. You could hear all the different bills that they had going on there. I think the most contentious one that we've heard in this second part that they had today was the one for making the governor pay for that lawsuit for that at-will employee that won a lawsuit based on claiming there was some sort of litmus test that they had to take to be able to keep their job. Completely makes you shake your head when you look at those kind of things that are going on. Make sure you have liked and shared this video. I am so sorry that you guys all had to listen to the elevator music between I have to work for a living. You guys could help stop that from happening and have me here commenting and commentating in between each at ease, or get me to different events by going to politidic.com and clicking that support button. All proceeds go right back towards doing what I do here, pays for the restream services, the gas money to be able to get to these different events. Going to be doing Congress members, people that are going to be running for congressman's seat or congressperson's seat, and down there in Washington, D.C. to replace Don Young. I know of at least 2 people I have lined up for interviews here coming up in the near future, and many more down the road. So make sure to like and share. I will see you back here at 6:15, and we will get this going again. Thank you all for being here today.